Hello world, Joshua here, and I hope you are having a beautiful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are. But it is the afternoon here in Auckland, New Zealand, and I am so excited for this video. A few weeks ago, I posted something on Instagram asking you to put your questions regarding vegan outreach. So now I'm going to answer a few of them. So let's get right into question number 1. Once I get my phone and unlock it. Question number 1. Have you ever had a time where someone at a Cube of Truth asked you a question and you didn't know the answer to it? How do you handle this, especially if they're just trying to make you sound uneducated? So this is a great question, and first off, yes, there have been times in different outreach demonstrations where someone has asked a question and I did not know the answer to it. I used to get upset and frustrated and tried to make myself sound like I knew the answer, but then I realized that it's okay to not know the answer. I think it actually looks better when we don't come off as a know-it-all or someone who's preachy and just trying to be entitled or higher than someone. And I think what this does is it creates a safer space for the conversation when we actually accept the fact that we don't know everything. So what I recommend in this case is you can do a few things. One, you can just tell someone, that's a really good question. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not as well versed in the medical side of A, B, and C, or I don't know the amino acid profile of this food. And be okay with that and let them know. They're gonna see the fact that you don't know everything about it, and then you can bring them back to the ethical side of veganism where you are a professional. And the other thing that you can do is bring someone else into the conversation. If you don't want to just divert the question to something else, you can say, hey, I don't know the answer to this, but this person does, and bring them into the conversation with you. We need to be working together, and we need to be utilizing all the resources that we have in order to help that person get their questions answered. But it's okay to not know everything. It's okay to tell them that you don't know it. The thing that you should do afterwards, though, is go educate yourself on that topic. It's so important to educate yourself on anything that you don't know so that we can sort of minimize that from happening the next time. Question number 2. How can you converse and come across in a way that is not all of a sudden loading information on people, avoiding it sounding like you are better than that person? This is a question that I get asked all the time. It's how do I not come across as preachy or someone that's just lecturing and giving them information? Sometimes it's hard to not do this. In the beginning of my outreach, I was someone that went into the conversation, gave them all this information, didn't let them talk, and then left. This was not the most efficient or effective way to go about the conversation. So what I recommend you doing is ask questions. Communication is 2 ways. If you just go in there and unload a bunch of information on them, that's one way. That's not giving them the space to communicate with you. You don't want to speak to someone, you want to speak with them. So the best way to do this is by asking questions. Well-planned and open-ended questions. Truly try to understand how someone feels when they're watching footage or what they know about a given industry or a topic that you are discussing. This is the best way to create a 2-way communication, and it's the best way to have them give you as much information as possible so you can use that with them later on in the conversation. So asking these questions, instead of saying, this is what happens in the dairy industry, you could say, are you familiar with what happens in the dairy industry? Instead of saying, this is animal cruelty, you can ask, what does animal cruelty look like to you? This is going to create a space that's going to allow them to give you information instead of you just telling them things. This is so powerful, and it's a tool that I use in every conversation because I actually care about what they're saying. So when you ask questions, it's going to sort of eliminate that preachy mentality that I'm only here to give information, because someone can't use that excuse of, oh, you're just not letting me speak and you're just unloading information on me if you're asking questions. So that would be my best advice for you, is try to find ways to turn what you're telling them into questions. People like to come to their own conclusion on how they feel about something. They don't like to be told things. They like to come to their own conclusion. Question number 3. How do you engage with younger people, say 15 years old, who clearly feel for the animals but don't think there is anything that they can do because they are not buying the products with their own money? So this is a question that I get asked all the time, is how do I communicate with kids, with younger people? And I just did an outreach video, one of my favorite conversations with a 10-year-old kid. I'll put that link somewhere up here and in the description if you wanted to go watch that after this video. But my advice to you is, one, speak with the kid as you would any other person, regardless of their age. Speak with them, make them feel respected. This is going to create, once again, a safer space, and that kid has valuable information, no different than someone who's 30, 40, or 50 years old. Everyone has the love within their heart to extend it to all beings. Everyone understands justice and respect for some of the most innocent and vulnerable beings on this planet. We all get that, and we all have that within our hearts. My goal is to help people connect to that. I actually think children and younger people are able to understand that a lot better. They're able to connect with that because they have fewer years of conditioning. Kids are like sponges. They take information in, they absorb it, and they're able to understand how they feel a lot better. This is what I believe. So treat kids no differently than you would treat anyone else in a conversation. However, I do use age-specific language. So instead of saying something like, do you think it morally justifies doing A, B, and C? I might not use that terminology if I'm speaking with an 8-year-old boy or a 10-year-old girl. I might use some simplified language to have them relate and to connect with what I'm saying a little bit better. So do you think that this is bad, what we're doing to animals? Do you have love for animals? Do you think you can love animals and eat them too? So I like to use this age-specific language so they can relate better to what I'm saying. This is going to allow them to feel a little bit more respected and a little bit more comfortable in this conversation. So it's not like I'm speaking down to them. We never want to speak down to anyone, but I feel like when some outreachers speak to children, they have a little bit more emotion, and that comes off sometimes as they're speaking down to them. And I want to create this safe space. I want to make that kid feel like I'm speaking with them like I would speak with their parents. Question number 4. How do you deal with the frustration after many unsuccessful conversations? So this is a really powerful question, and I get asked this every single week. It's what happens when you have a conversation that's bringing up a lot of emotions, that's making you feel frustrated, angry, sad. And we need to focus on creating the most positive headspace as vegan activists, because we are living in a non-vegan world, and we are going up against some of the biggest industries and some of the most brainwashing. So we are bound to feel these emotions. But what I think we need to focus on is creating the most positive headspace, because we put in a lot of thoughts into our minds. And if those thoughts are negative, we're going to be having negative words come out, and we're going to be having negative actions come out. If we put positive thoughts into our mind, we're going to have positive words come out and positive actions. This is how I feel we're going to sustain our activism long term and be the most efficient and effective activist, helping us get to our end goal of total animal liberation a lot quicker. But we are bound to have these conversations where people get us feeling frustrated and bring up these emotions. So how to deal with it? 1, I think we need to understand that the majority of the time it's not our fault. You are on the right side of history. You are fighting for the most innocent and vulnerable beings on the planet. You are being their voice. When someone is giving you all these objections and getting angry and forcing these emotions within you, it's because of a fear mechanism for them. They don't want to think that they've been contributing to these industries for X amount of years. They don't want to think that they've been doing something bad or immoral or supporting the industries murdering animals. So this is that fear mechanism. When they feel that vulnerability coming in, they put up a wall and they start getting aggressive, and that's when they start giving all of these objections, trying to justify why they continue to consume animal products. So if you can understand that the majority of the time it's not your fault, this is going to set you up for success. Then, when that conversation is over or during that conversation, be an observer to your own thoughts. Understand how you're feeling. Really dig deep and be like, why am I getting frustrated? Why am I getting angry? Is it something I did? Is it something they're doing? Is it the way they're speaking to me? And try to observe that, understand how you're feeling, and then process it. Allow yourself to take a breather and understand that you are on the right side of history. You are doing amazing work. And if it's something that you can adjust quickly, maybe your tone of voice, your body language, the words that you're saying, do that. If it's after the conversation, take a breather, reflect, and set yourself up for success for the next conversation. Clear your mind, allow that conversation to move, and go on to the next, because we need to be focusing on the best headspace here so that you can have the best conversation with the people that are open and willing to make change and to start taking veganism seriously. Question number 5. How do you start a conversation? So the simplest way is to create a friendly and safe environment. The way I do this, especially at a Cube of Truth or when you're at a demonstration that's showing footage, is I like to let people watch for 30 seconds to a minute. I want them to put as much information as possible in their own mind before I even approach them. When they've watched for a significant amount of time, I'll approach them from the side. I don't like to approach people from behind or straight in the front. From the side, and I'll say, hey, how's it going? What this does is it creates this friendly environment. And they also sort of have an idea that I'm with the demonstration, so they feel a little bit more comfortable with speaking with me. If I just walked up to them and be like, we're a vegan organization, we're showing this, we're doing that, or what are your thoughts on this, or how do you feel about this? This sort of just throws a bunch of stuff out on the table, and I feel that it's not the most effective way to start a conversation. So like I said, what I do is I try to create that friendly space. Hey, how's it going? How are you doing today? If you want to introduce yourself with your name. I mean, there's so many different ways you can do this, but create that friendly environment so that they feel a little bit more comfortable when having that conversation. Then I'll go into trying to find more information about how they're feeling about the environment. How does watching this footage make you feel? Or have you seen this footage before? You know, where have you seen this footage before? On social media? Were you able to watch? Did you swipe right by? What does animal cruelty look like to you? That's when you get to ask all of these powerful questions to set yourself up for getting all of this information that you can use throughout the conversation. Question number 6, and this is a really important one because I get asked this more than any other question. How do you keep a conversation on topic and steer people back to animal rights? So what happens in conversation sometimes is we lose control. And what I mean by this is the person that we're speaking with starts to talk. Usually this happens when they start to give you every single objection, and that point you have lost control. They are speaking, they are trying to make every excuse for why they can't go vegan and why they want to continue to support these industries. It's okay that you lose control sometimes. You can't have a perfect conversation where you are in control the entire time. But the important part is regaining control and knowing when to regain control. So when you get put up against a wall, when you've lost control, when you are not in the driver's seat anymore, that person's going to be speaking. Majority of the time, it's when they are giving you the objections regarding environment, health, or religion. It's never about the ethics because you cannot argue veganism regarding ethics. People think they can debate and argue regarding health, environment, and religion, but that's where your education is going to come in. So what you do, or what I do in this case, is I allow them some space to talk. I want them to feel respected. I want them to feel like I'm listening to them. So I allow them to talk. I shake my head. I agree with them on a few things. I say, I understand how you feel, but when there comes a point in the conversation where I feel it's taking it too far and they're speaking too long and there are other people at the demo that I could be spending my time with, I say, hey, I understand all of these points you're trying to make. I used to feel this way about A, B, and C. But what does your heart say about this? And I actually put my hand on my heart and I point at the screen. If you don't have a screen showing footage, I paint the picture for them. Mom, I understand that you're trying to, justify veganism based off this. I understand that you think we need to eat animal products for protein. I used to feel this way, but what does your heart say about the 56 billion land animals that are being killed every year for human consumption? What this is doing, this is a very powerful question. It connects people to their heart and it stops them to be thinking and speaking with their mind. That's cognitive dissonance at its finest. When someone starts giving you all the objections, like I said before, that's that fear mechanism. That's their brain speaking. That's habit, condition, and taste on rapid fire. I want to get people to stop thinking with here and start thinking with here because it's all within that love, that compassion, that kindness, that respect, that justice. It's within their heart. They understand how to extend that to all beings. A lot of people, majority of people, just have that a little bit more suppressed than others. So it's my job to help uncover that. So by asking this question, it stops them from their rant and it puts you back in the driver's seat. You regain control of the conversation when you get someone to start thinking about the ethical side of veganism. This is the most important. this is how we're able to help people make the connection the easiest. So use this, use it often, put your hand on your heart if you want, point at the screen if you have it, paint a picture if you don't have that visual, but utilize this. It is a very powerful tool that I use. And that does it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. If you have any more that come up, make sure to leave those in the comment section below so I can answer those in the coming weeks. If you would like to support my activism and my 365-day journey around the world raising awareness for the animals, I have a Patreon account where you can pledge a monthly amount to support me on this journey. I'll put that link in the description. But I just want to extend so much love and gratitude to all of you. Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. But for now, much love from New Zealand. If you haven't already, make sure to choose compassion. Peace.